If the olive hits the ground, it was meant to be on the ground.
Sicily was a land that was conquered many times.
That blows my mind.
And those olives are being hand-picked, pressed within 6 hours.
And they pick about 125 trees a day, all by hand.
Ciao amici, welcome to another edition of Pizza Chat. I'm Master Leo Spizzeri on location at Pizza University and Culinary Arts Center. And today I'm so excited for our guests that I would say traveled all the way from Sicily, because my friend Anthony here literally has arrived from Sicily. And if you don't know by the beautiful colors in front of me, we're talking to our friends from Partanna. I'd like to introduce you first and foremost to my friend Anthony Mentesana and Andrew Piccione, who are from the company Partanna. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to have you. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time.
Glad to be here.
Anthony, why don't you tell everybody what's your role here with Partanna, and tell us a little bit about your journey here with us.
Sure. So my role is Director of Sales for the East, everything east of the Mississippi. And I literally just got back on Friday from Partanna, Sicily. I was at the factory, the Frontoia, the fields, the corporate office. And truly, you know, it brought everything full circle for me, being with the company now for the time that I have been, because we all know the product is great, but when you go back and you meet Antonino Asaro with his son Tommaso, and then you got Nino and Giuseppe, it's a family business, right? These people are farmers. They're in the fields, as I showed you the videos, picking olives by hand, you know, and it's an old school method. Nothing has changed since 1916. So it's an honor to represent such a brand, and you know you're delivering it with full confidence.
I love this so much, and I love this story, and I want to dive into this. But first, Andrew, why don't you tell us about yourself and what you do with Partanna?
Absolutely. My name is Andrew. Thank you, Leo, for having us here today. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be in the presence of a legend. For the last 3-4 years, I've been working very closely with the Asaro family. For the first year, more in the office doing logistics and marketing, and then for the last 2-3 years, kind of being out on the street, being the face of the brand, representing it at food shows, general sales meetings, demos in store, really just traveling and trying to get everybody to try the Partanna extra virgin olive oil and recognize it for the amazing olive oil that it really is.
I think that it's such a great story, and to me, more important than the story, I think it's the history, right?
Yeah.
For myself, everybody knows what I do, and I do a lot to try to bring Italian products here in America, real Italian products, to the forefront, so that
not just with an Italian name.
You understand what I'm saying? Actually made in Italy products, you know, the way that they should be.
Oh, capito.
And not some of those, you know, even scam products. You know, we have scam Marzanos, and you know, olive oil is another one that through the years has gotten a bad rap, because there's a lot of bad people in that world trying to do bad business to make a buck. Yeah. And this is so different. You talking about coming and going to see the fields, and a family that started in 1916, right?
Yeah.
This is such a huge part of the story of why this authenticity is so still relevant today. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I mean, literally coming back and being so fresh on what I've seen, and talking to Antonino, who's now, I believe, 82 or 84 years old, and listening to his stories of when his father started the business, you know, they haven't changed much. Their philosophy has still carried through till the 5th generation. You know, even though technology and machinery and stuff like that has advanced, their philosophy on how they're going to pick olives by hand. They're not vibrating any trees.
So
there's no.
I want to talk about that in a minute, because I still do not believe it that what you told me until you showed me.
I showed you the video.
And I want to talk about this, but to go back a step, because we have a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life that watch these episodes, right? When we talk about pizza, everything always goes straight to the flour because we talk about dough. Flour comes from a mulino, which is the flour mill, right? In your world, olive oil producers are known as the frantoi, right? Or the frantoio is the person that makes olive oil.
Right.
In history, the way we would see, let's say, a flour mill, it was all stone ground. We would have sometimes, as romantic as it sounds, a flowing body of water next to the wheel, that was spinning to move the wheels. There's a lot of that goes behind even the way that olive oil was produced back in the day. We didn't have electricity. We didn't have the comforts that we have today. What are some of the differences that as this company evolved to be, let's say, the leader in Italian olive oil, what are some of the steps that were these big, bounces to bridge to where we are today?
So I think it's important to say that, we're vertically integrated. And a lot of companies in our space are not. So what does that mean? That means that we own those trees, we grow that fruit, we're spending all year till the harvest season making sure that those trees are getting, and some of those trees are 500 years old, getting the right amount of water. So talk about innovation. Tommaso, some years ago, traveled outside of the country to go look at this irrigation system, and he knew how important it was to get water to these roots, right, of these trees to keep them alive, to keep bearing fruit. So he spent that money and that time to make sure that we implemented that system, and not a lot of people can afford to do that.
Right.
So being vertically integrated, we're not going around from farm to farm saying, hey, we want to buy X amount of tonnage from you and you and you. We're growing it. We're controlling the whole process from the tree to the can, from Sicily to America. So the Asaro family, us as a team, our hands are in and no one else's. So we're controlling the whole thing. So that's why when people open up the can, or better yet, they see the can, they don't have to open it. They say, we know it's good. We hear that all the time.
And I'll say another thing, because I have this little jar of olives here, right? You guys use one specific variety.
Correct.
In your oils. When you look at oils.
No, one specific variety in everything.
So this
oils and table olives.
This is where I'm going with this. In the production of olive oil, first of all, we would say that the biggest producers, most of the olive oil, even though it might even be labeled Italian olive oil, usually comes from Spain and other places like this, where the heaviest density of olive groves are, right? You guys are working with the Castelvetrano olive. Castelvetrano olive is these olives here. And Daniel, please, when we go through this, why don't you put a nice shot up right now of some trees, some olive trees in the Castelvetrano. But the one thing that I'm most impressed about, when you pack a jar like this with a clear glass bottle, there's nowhere to hide. Every single olive inside of this jar is perfect. And the comment that I made to you when I was watching that production line, after I watched, literally you said 125 trees a day getting picked by hand, which blows my mind.
One team.
Understanding how much oil you guys produce, and one at a time, the olives being picked. Yeah. The comment that I made was the olives that were going down those lines to be sorted and then pressed were literally identical to the ones that are in this jar. And if you're going to make really good olive oil, my family's Calabrese, right? And we have olive trees too, right? We're not that far from Sicily. And I know that it's a big part of the quality of the oil.
Yeah.
You have to be at that point where if you start to see that you start getting some of that violet or purple color, this is actually an olive now that's starting to show its age, right? So there is a point in the harvest that these olives have to be picked.
Correct.
And if I'm incorrect, please tell me. But it's one of those things I'm passionate about, right? But when you see the way that olive oil has to be produced, right? In the chef's world, we always say garbage in, garbage out, right? There's nowhere to hide. You literally are putting it in a glass jar. When you put this olive oil in a bowl and you look at it, it's that gorgeous green color every single time. The word liquid gold, right? There's a reason why we call it.
We go a step further. We're so transparent and confident in what we do. Not only do we, like you say, the glass jar so you can see through it, we're willing to offer a trip, a tour to anyone who comes to Sicily. If you're in Sicily and you want to come to Partanna, just let us know. The doors are always open.
It's amazing.
And you can see the whole facility and how we do everything.
I love that. I love that. And so, before we jump too far ahead, what's the website? How do people learn more about these products?
So it's partannafoods.com, right? That's our website. You can go there. You can learn all of what we make. And obviously, we have distribution channels, different distribution points throughout the United States. We work with all Italian specialty stores across the United States. But as a fifth-generation family-owned company, we're very tangible. You know, you can just call the number, the customer service number, and it's going to come to one of us.
It's so great.
You know, and we get that every day, by the way. And they reach out to us every day.
And I'm one of those guys too that I give our info line all the time. I give my phone number to people. It's, again, we have nothing to hide, so it's easy to talk about good stuff, right?
When someone calls the office and an email gets sent out, usually to myself and Andrew's copied and the rest of my team, they're shocked at how fast we respond, because they think they're calling this huge, big conglomerate corporate America. No, we're a family business.
Right.
We own a business just like our customers own a business, and we understand how important it is to get back to them right away with an answer, give them the direction, let them know where they can get the product, and just service them, right? And then we tell them at the end, you now have my name and number. If there's ever an issue in the future, just call me. We'll help you.
That's amazing. I want to go to Andrew now.
Yeah.
You're kind of like feet on the ground. You're the guy in the trenches, right? And I see you at trade shows all the time. You know what I love about this company too is that there's this younger generation, right? That's kind of taking all these old ways.
Are you trying to say I'm old, Leo?
No, but you and I are in the same boat, and I know what I call myself. So I'm grouping you in with me, right?
All right.
But there's a younger generation that's taking the torch, right? And I see you a lot at trade shows, and even speaking about the family. Like, I've known Nino Osaro for a very long time, and I'm over the past few years gotten to know Giuseppe very well. And again, to understand that where their grandparents started this company, right? Or great grandparents. And then to see them interacting with their grandparents. And I know that, Nino drives his grandmother nuts and, all those kind of things, which is great if you see us on social media doing things. But to be able to understand the story of them coming to the United States and saying, we're really going to dive in to say we're going to open up this market. And then, Andrew, guys like you being those soldiers on the ground saying, I'm not only believing in what this is, but I'm going to be able to talk about it with anybody who wants to talk about it. What are some of the things that you see when you're doing some of these shows or when you're interacting with people? What are some of the things that people are asking you about? Or sometimes we hear these kind of comments and we start to laugh like, these guys don't know nothing, whatever it is. Because we're here to educate people. Yeah. What are some of those comments that you hear? Is there anything funny that you could recollect, a nice story that when you were at a trade show and somebody said something like, I remember this guy every time I see him?
So, Leo, to your question, I think being a soldier on the ground is really fun. And as Anthony mentioned, being a company that's fully vertically integrated and fully transparent, it's really easy to sell the brand. I mean, once customers know about the story, try the product, the rest kind of just happens all naturally. Just little things along the way. I mean, being out in those trade shows is definitely fun. Of course, you have your characters that are always coming to the booth just to kind of talk to you, whether some of them know the family. There's always been funny stories back in the day where people will call and act as if they're a cousin. We were selling olive oil to this woman who may have been a family member for quite some time, and then one day we all got together and was like, they're not a family member. So there's those moments, and then I guess really the fun thing for me about being at the trade shows is running into people like yourself in the industry. I think especially at the pizza shows and just the pizza community in general is really friendly in comparison to maybe restaurant industry, high-end white tablecloth. The pizzaiolos really get along with each other. They share each other's secrets. You have the Pizza University, which is really teaching the next generation of pizzaiolos. And I think that's really specific to the pizza industry alone. I think there's a lot of love and friendship and helping one another in that industry. So for me, being at the Pizza Expo in Las Vegas is definitely my favorite thing, seeing everybody compete, using all those great products like Caputo flour, Partanna olive oil, San Marzano tomatoes, good mozzarella. So it's really a beautiful thing to kind of be in that group, and I'm really happy to be at those trade shows.
And you know what I love too, like when we get into like shows and we're doing things, like you have you have some great ideas when it comes to concepts for pizza. I'll say it like this, because we were talking about even like this agrumato.
Yes.
That's a whole nother thing, right?
Yeah.
But in that agrumato, this particular one is orange, and I'm like, what would you use this for? And you're like, oh man, you got to try this on a white pizza.
Yeah, it is.
I love that you actually know how to apply it, because there's a lot of trained robots sometimes that you see selling things, right?
You got to give food for thought.
Absolutely, and that's the thing I love. But anytime I ever ask you a question about something, it's like, oh, you got to try this, or I love this, and I really respect that about what you do.
Thank you. That comes from really my passion for food. I mean, before I really got into working with the Asaro family, I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to do like culinary, do some kind of education with maybe a culinary school, and my parents kind of drifted me away from that path. And luckily I found this company that I've been working with for 3-4 years that allowed me to get that exposure to the industry in a different way. I mean, as you were mentioning, the agrumato oil is probably one of my favorites in the catalog. I think Anthony has grown to love it as well.
Yep.
For the agrumato oil, it's actually a method of pressing that we do where we're crushing citrus fruits and olives simultaneously, keeping everything whole. Back in the day, Tommaso told me a story that they looked at him like he was crazy, that he was going to break his machines. How could he do this? Not traditional method of pressing olive oil. And they just went for it. I mean, we have tons of photos where it's just whole Verdelli lemons on the line with those olives, just like you saw in the video, and it's all getting crushed together. So picture you're at home with the washing machine and you throw those two fruits together. What we get is those beautiful olive oils that can be used on any type of fish, salad, vegetable, chicken, pizza.
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
And ice cream, which is what we've been doing at the shows recently. And
Incredible.
It's been an insane pop. It's just really a fun way for people to try it. They think olive oil on ice cream, this guy's crazy, I'm never gonna have it. Why are you putting salt on my ice cream? Hot fudge and sprinkles is in the past, and olive oil is the future.
I agree 100%, and it's understanding these really quality ingredients that, you know, that's definitely something that's crafted. This is something that you cannot do in a factory, right? You have to do it in small batches. There's a very specific way of doing it. And to think that, again, to treat this not only as an addition, maybe as a finishing oil, or in other applications like on top of some gelato or a sorbetto or something, it could be very beautiful. I think that your role is really important because you're the one who's at that last line of defense, putting these products into people's mouths.
Correct.
Right? And I think that at the end of the day, if we all just kept our mouth shut, right, which is hard sometimes, and literally would just sit there with a spoon and say, try this. You pick what you like the best. I think that it just, again, the quality products are the ones that always shine.
That's what we do when they're done talking. We don't respond. We just give them props.
Just eat it.
Yeah, just eat it. And then they look at us, this is good.
That's it. It sells
Conversation's
itself. You're not
over.
the sell. It's not a sell. That's right. I love this. Guys, as we start talking about olive oil and olives in particular, we go back to Sicily, right? And I've spent so much time going through the entire country that I know that different regions have different attributes that come into whatever you're producing, right? Northern Italy has certain places that are fantastic for doing certain things. Go into the region of Emilia-Romagna and it's no joke why you see that Parmigiano Reggiano and Prosciutto di Parma all come from that same region because of the climate and the atmosphere. What are some of the benefits that you get from Sicily itself, from being in Sicily, and what from Sicily ends up in the field and ultimately in your fruit?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I think over the years, Sicily was a land that was conquered many times due to its fertile soil. Specifically where Partanna is located is in the Valle del Belice. So Partanna not only is the name of the brand, it's also the name of the town which we are from. A lot of people don't really put the two together, but Partanna is a town about 15 to 20 minutes away from Castelvetrano, which are where those olives are sourced. And many years ago, these trees were actually brought to Sicily by the Greeks and the Arabs. If it wasn't for them migrating to Sicily, we wouldn't really have this fruit that we have today. Luckily, the Valle del Belice, which was once a river that actually split in between Sicily, we are on the left side of the river, giving it a really fertile soil, the beautiful sunlight of Sicily, mild climate year-round. We're able to grow these fruits. One thing specifically about our Castelvetrano olives is that we pick them unripe. As Leo was mentioning earlier, these olives are bright green because we pick them unripe, similarly like a banana. When you have a banana, first it'll be green, then it'll turn yellow, then it'll turn black. Similarly with an olive, start green, start to turn purple, and then will turn black. A lot of people say, oh, I only like black olives. You like overripe olives, which is fine. For us, we pick them very unripe, which is gonna give us a nice crunchy, buttery texture, not so much brine flavor. Inside that brine is just water and sea salt. So really not something overpowering, not too salty, not too briny. And the crunchiest, smooth, buttery olive. This is the olive for people who don't like olives. And those olives are being hand-picked, pressed within 6 hours, and is the only olive that we use inside all of our Partanna extra virgin olive oil.
I think this is awesome. And Anthony, you had just come back, and we talked about, you told me, I didn't know this. You told me that every single olive is picked by hand. That blows my mind. How many olives could possibly be picked in a day?
So we have different teams. There's usually about 7 to 8 people on a team, and they pick about 125 trees a day, all by hand. No vibration of the trees, no nets on the ground. If the olive hits the ground, it was meant to be on the ground, and that's where it stays.
That's interesting.
So like Andrew said, these olives, and you stated earlier, you got to pick them at a certain time, right? So they're not ripe. They're just, they meet our spec. Mm-hmm. We have a very high spec. And there are companies, unfortunately, that, looking more towards the financial side of the business rather than the quality side of the business. We look at the quality side of the business. What falls on the floor, we could probably generate millions more gallons, but that didn't meet our spec. It wasn't meant to be in the basket. So he said Andrew said the rivers. When you walk in our fields, and anyone that wants to go, again, I'll say it again, the invitation's open. When you walk in our fields, you'll see the rocks, the river rocks. They're there for hundreds of years. That soil, you can eat a watermelon, spit the seeds in the ground, a watermelon tree will grow.
Okay.
So where we're located, we're right next to Salonute, which is the beach. You got the beautiful Mediterranean Sea, which is right there. So the climate, this was like the Hamptons for the Greeks back in the 1400s. This was where there was a population of 100,000 people. Today, that would be relevant to the same amount of people that are in Shanghai. You're talking about 1400s, right? So it's still today such a beautiful place. And I just got back Friday. The weather there was around 85 degrees.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful breeze. You don't need a jacket. And that's what the trees and the fruit, that's what it thrives off of. It thrives off of that climate, and it thrives off of the irrigation, the saltwater air. It's literally paradise. It really is. For anyone who we're in Provincia di Trapani. If anyone hasn't been to Partanna, Salonute, Mazzara, Castelvetrano, Salemi, those are the towns right around us.
And it's funny we talk about even Trapani, because in my work, and in my, people watch a lot of videos and things like that, I only use sea salt from Trapani, which is some of the greatest salt flats in the world.
Right.
And there's been areas in Sicily that you talk about the salinity even in the air. There's areas in Sicily that I've eaten fresh tomatoes off the plant. You cut into and eat it, and they almost taste like they're salted already on it. Right? It just blows my mind. So to hear all of the attributes that come from the terrain, right? Again, I think goes back to the authenticity, the traditions, and why you guys are a leader in what you do.
We're at the end of the day, we're respecting what Mother Nature gave us. We don't mess with Mother Nature. Whatever she says, because the trees speak to you. You know, if you're there long enough, there's people that I spoke to in Sicily, they tell me the trees speak to us in a lot of different ways. And I thought that the guy was nuts when he told me that. But you know what? I came to understand that after spending so much time there and understanding what he meant by that, right? And you become one. I mean, this is the livelihood of everyone in that valley, the Nocelata de Belice Valley. Everyone is growing olives. We, as a company, for the folks that grow their own olives on their own property, their backyards or what have you, they'll take the olives to our factory because they can't afford the machinery, and we'll press it for them, and they'll go back home with their olive oil. So it's not just the Acido family. It's Partanna. It's a town.
Right.
It's the way people live.
That's great.
And we're at the forefront of that for those people. So a lot of them work for us. So they're supporting their families. And every time we sell a can of olive oil to someone, whether it be a chef, whether it be someone for home use, we're supporting a family with those dollars in a town.
It's such an amazing thing. And I love even also in the let's say the poesia, right, of talking about the trees talking. When you have trees, you showed me a picture of a 500-year-old tree that's still producing olives, right?
Yeah.
Think of the stories that tree would tell. Right? And I think that, again, why does a tree survive 500 years? Well, maybe it was because nobody shook the heck out of it, right? And picked these things by hand. Yep. How cool is that? I think that all of these bits and pieces, again, for me, just reinforces even more my love for Partanna and this oil. And then the other thing that's so cool, I've got these cans everywhere, and I hate to throw them out even when you're done, just because it's such a beautiful can. And when you see the can itself, and Daniel, we go and zoom in and put a thing up on the screen. In this photo, you've got this castle, and then, what is this here?
The fountain.
The fountain.
That was a gift from Queen Anna. That was a gift to the town, that fountain. That fountain has running water. I was at that fountain last Thursday. That fountain has running water all day long, and I witnessed a man in the town pull over and drink from it.
And the castle is literally just behind it.
Right above it, yeah.
And you showed me a picture of this, and I was blown away because this is there. And then, obviously, the famous Sicilian cart.
Bugattinos.
Yeah, and I mean, everything about us is here.
So right? I want to elaborate on something, and then I'm going to let Andrew talk about it a little bit more. So the castle, right across from the castle, there's a park. It's a beautiful park with a beautiful view. The Acido family went to the town and said, we want to maintain this park, right? And they looked at them and they said, what do you mean? We want to send our people here to do the landscaping, clean it. We just want to put a sign that says Acido. That's it, right? And I asked Nino while we were there, I said, what's the story? Why are our signs here? He says, because it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful view of the whole valley, of the Nocelata de Belice Valley. It's an unbelievable view, right? And the town didn't have the resources. So the Acido family stepped up and said, we'll take care of it at our expense. Again, going back to preserving the town and really making people understand that it's not just about making oil and making money. It's about the people, the town itself, and for many more years to come, the community, right? So the people that live there can say, wow, the Acido family really does give you can bleep this out, does give about us, right? And it's not just about, making olive oil, making money. They care about the town. And that to me means a lot because I like to associate myself with a family company that really gives back and understands. But I really want Andrew to talk to you about why the can is red and how this picture came about. This is going to blow your mind.
So one thing that I wanted to touch on is really, as you pointed out, the graphics of all of our products. Everything is hand-drawn by an artist. So for the Partanna tin, the story is that the great-grandfather who came to the United States in 1923. So Partanna was the first branded Sicilian olive oil in the United States. We started pressing those green Castelvetrano olives in 1916. Before 1916, before consuming olive oil, they were using it to make soap. And they were selling the soap to the local markets in Sicily. So first it started with soap, then in 1916 we pressed it into olive oil, and 1923 we brought the first tin that was stamped Asaro, Partanna into the United States. Now the story behind that was that the great-great-grandfather wanted to put his name on the tin, and he also wanted to give credit to the town where it came from. So in 1923, he came to Brooklyn, New York, and he actually opened up a cheese shop. So there was two things sold inside of his shop. One was olive oil, branded Partanna Asaro, and the second was cheese, which he would cut with a wire back in the old days. So when he came, he had with him very few things when he came to the United States, one of them being a postcard of his hometown, Partanna. Back in the day, you could see perfectly clear from the fountain to the castle, nothing in between, no homes. Now today, there's obviously some new development that separates the fountain and the castle. But back in the day, that's exactly what it looked like. And he brought that postcard with him, and he found a street artist in Brooklyn, and he said, "This is my hometown. Can you put this on this can?"
Oh, what a great story.
And he hand drew the whole thing. We've been making small developments to the tin ever since, but it's always been known as the red tin since 1923. And the inspiration behind the color red was really due to Coca-Cola. So back when he came to the United States, he saw that Americans were really infatuated with soda, Coca-Cola being one of the biggest and still the biggest.
1923.
Yeah, yeah.
So as you can see, our color red is pretty similar to a Coca-Cola. It just really stood out to him. It's a beautiful red color that pops
I'll
in any
say
restaurant.
your color red is the better red.
Thank you.
Just to put it out, it's the better red.
Similar-
Just like you buy a Ferrari, it's the better red.
Ferrari red.
Exactly right.
Similarly, story with our A Siciliana, as he lived in the United States in about the 1950s during the World War II era, I believe, he went back to Sicily and he looked around his farm. Not only are we growing olives, but we're growing many other things, almonds, grapes, citruses, which is Sicily known for, Verdelli lemons, sanguinella oranges. So he came back to Sicily and said, all these Americans are in love with soda. They love Coca-Cola. They love Pepsi. Why don't I try to make something myself? So A Siciliana was actually a brand that was created in the 1950s. We kept the recipes the same. We kept the design the same. The A Siciliana woman was actually the idea of a beautiful Sicilian woman to him. It's what he saw as a beautiful woman. So that's what we still portray today. We revitalized the brand in about 2016 and here in the United States. In the 1950s, when they tried to launch in Sicily, Coca-Cola came into that market at the same time, and the family really couldn't compete with a corporate giant. So the brand was dormant since then. We relaunched here in the United States using those two citrus fruits, the sanguinella orange that's actually sourced from Mount Etna, which is the world's largest, most active volcano located right in Sicily, and then the Verdelli lemons that come from the coast of Sicily, a place called Siracusa. So recipes, design, can, everything has stayed the same since the 1950s.
And there's two more flavors coming. I'm not telling you now, though.
To be continued.
I will say like this, that soda is one of my favorite things to drink.
Thank you.
And I'm going to admit right now to you boys, I'm a little heartbroken because that woman on that Vespa could be the next Mrs. Spizzeri. And to hear that she's a fictional character now is breaking my heart. But it's such a gorgeous picture, and the branding and everything that went behind that. Again, I think that it's such a beautiful story, and to connect those two dots is such a really cool thing for people to hear.
You know, Leo, we appreciate you having us here today because it's important for people to know the story of independent ownership, owned businesses, right? There's a story. When you support a brand such as Partanna or A Siciliana, you're supporting not only the family, but a whole town. So think about that.
That's right. Guys, I really thank you for coming and joining us today. I really appreciate, and we can't thank you enough for your collaboration and your support here with Pizza University. I'm excited to be able to go to all the trade shows now and having your support behind my back to allow us to continue doing what we do and to be, I'll call myself, another soldier in your army as well.
We got your back.
Thank you so much. It was so great to have you guys here. And everybody out there, if you have any other questions, please visit their website. You can go to our website, pizzauniversity.org, and you can click on the link that's on our website to see all the amazing things from Partanna. If you're interested in taking any of our courses, go look at all the intensive classes and all the online classes that we do. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us at info@pizzauniversity.org. And like I always say, I can't wait to have you all in class soon. I'm Maestro Leo Spizzeri. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.